Hello, everyone, and my name is André Smith, a recent graduate of the MHS program, and I am on the med track.
Hello, everybody. I am Jordan Mitchell, and I'm also a recent graduate of the MHS program, and I'm also on the medical track.
Hi guys, my name is Marlon Foster, recent graduate of the MHS program on the medical track.
Hello, my name is London Wheeler, recently graduated from the MHS program, and I am on the med track as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Amasyah Mayo. I'm a recent graduate of the MHS program and on the med track, and we are known as the Smart Kiddos. We're going to show you how to book a CEDS session. Let's hop over to the CEDS course room.
Hey guys, so, I noticed that we have 2 quizzes and a text in the next 2 weeks. I am about to book a few CEDS sessions. That's cool? What days should I do? Yes, please. Okay, you're right. Does Wednesday work for y'all? I have to tutor on Tuesday, but Wednesday or Thursday works for me. Wednesday works for me too, smiling face. Yes, any day but Friday. I have rest, winking face. LOL, not I have rest. Laughing. Laughing Fridays are self-care days. Okay, Wednesday works. I have to rest. Y'all got my point, laughing. LOL, did we though? Laughing. Okay, what topics do you guys want to cover? Occur. Anatomy, please. Face with open eyes and mouth with head exploding. Can we please discuss the last lecture from micro, please? Wait, what classes do we have quizzes in again? Laughing, I can't keep up. Everything. Sis, where is our calendar? Me either, laughing. Over it. Laughing face with rolling eyes. We have a quiz in anatomy every Thursday, micro on Friday, and farm exam Monday, distraught face. Okay, I got you guys. We'll put the appointment in our calendars.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Smart Kiddo Said session. And first, I'm going to begin by discussing my approach to individual studying. So during class, I tend to pay attention more to what the professor is actually saying rather than focusing too much on taking notes during class because I want to actually retain the information. Then after class, what I'll do, I will go back and re-listen to the lecture, whether it's on Blackboard if we get that opportunity, or I will record it on my iPad. Then while I listen to the lecture, I annotate my notes directly onto the professor's PowerPoint slide directly. And then after I do that, I use those detailed notes. And when it comes time for a quiz or a midterm, I consolidate those notes into some form of a study guide that you will see later.
And so I'm a little bit different from Jordan. She be trying to listen, I'm be trying to take notes. So in class, I'm taking notes as well as listening. I mean, it's not the brand and the cutest notes, but they notes, I'm on Notability. That's my favorite app. So choose what you choose, but that's my go-to, and I'm just taking notes with along with the PowerPoints. And then I'm not a huge fan of re-listening to lectures, so I try to take the best notes in class. So like Jordan does one thing, I do one thing. So it's just really finding your fit. So
Like whatever works for you.
that's it.
Re-listen to lectures because it helps me retain better when I can pause, speed up a little bit, or rewind. It's hard for me to grasp the initial concept in class. When a few classmates may have questions, or if I don't understand something right then and there, sometimes I would get frustrated. So I learned that I best retain the material and understand it when I can have it on my own time. I can play it at my own speed, and I can rewind. So that was my approach as well.
Now it does take a long time, but it does actually.
Yes, it kind of takes double the time.
But it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it.
Or if you're like me and you get overwhelmed with trying to take notes and do it, like when Dr. Lobo was teaching that brachioreflexes, trying to draw and do all that at the same time, no, it was not working. So sometimes it's just good to, especially for anatomy, to just listen, see what the professor is saying, then go back, take your time because there's so much coming at you at once. So when you go back, that's how I study too, like listening to lecture.
For me, I'm pretty simple when I learn, but it's kind of, it takes longer because I feel like I have to constantly reread, but reading alone is usually just how I study. So for alone at least. So reading, rereading till I understand something new or get something new out of the passage. Usually, that's how I go about it.
I will be discussing my study schedule during the week and the weekends. Specifically for the MHS program, they gave us our schedule for the whole entire semester. And so each week on Sundays, I would look at what classes I have for that week. I would look at when my quizzes would be, when my exams would be, and I will also look at what lectures or how many lectures for one specific class we would have that week. So on Sundays, I like to print off my lectures. I'm a very tactile person. I like to have everything in my hand. I would print out the lectures if they were available on Blackboard, just to get familiar with what I'm getting into for the week. From there, I would find the designated chapters in the book, like Jordan stated earlier, when not really focusing on what the teacher's saying right then and there, I would kind of read the chapter during class so that I'm familiar with what I'm going to study later on in the evening. So typically our classes ended on a good day around noon, but on a longer day, it ended maybe about 3 o'clock or 3:30, depending on if we had meetings that day as well. So typically during the week after class, I would take a nap, I would tutor or volunteer, or I would eat. And then from there, starting about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I'm in the library till closing. And typically I would set study goals for myself each day. If I didn't finish my goals by 1 a.m. at the library, I would transfer over to West Basics because that's a 24-hour study facility on campus. I like to study at night. I get more of my stamina in the evenings. And I like to rewatch lectures. It would take me about 4 or 5 hours to rewatch the lecture. And then from there, I would either make a Quizlet, I would make a study guide. It just depends on how much material we learned during that day or during that week, or depending on the quiz or exam schedule. It will all surround, how much do I need to study, during this day? How much workload do I need to pile in under 2 days? For example, for anatomy, we had a quiz every class. So if we had a class every other day, I knew anatomy had to come first. With studying a little more than the other classes, I just had to try to balance between what lectures to rewatch, how many study guides I need to make, how many Quizlets do I need to make, on top of trying to balance pharmacology when you get 100 drugs in a class period. What helped me best is to make a things to do list based off of your weekly schedule, your monthly schedule. So then you can see what lectures you have, what chapters you need to read, what recordings you need to watch, and then you get to see the material. You get to get ahead of the game by printing out everything, note taking early, and then so you won't be so overwhelmed by when tests comes or quizzes come. And then I would just text the smart kiddos, say, hey, I have a question about this, or did you guys understand this? And the smart kiddos has always supported me during this whole entire MHS program. So they kept me leveled while I stayed up at night, and I just went
late,
3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's just a regular study evening for me. Sometimes I would have dinner ready to go. I would take my breaks. And then just jump right back into it. I had my designated spot in the library, and I would just grind until I met my study goals.
And I think that's also where we all differ, because Amasyah is going to stay up late and she's going to understand it before she goes to bed. Meanwhile, if it ain't done by 10, it's just going to have to wait till in the morning. And I would just get up super early before class. If class was 8, maybe get up at 5, and I'm gonna study between now and then. So I think it's like trying to find your balance. Amasyah does something different. I do something different. Like all of us did something different, but we all secured great grades. It's just finding like your niche for how you do things. So whether you're dent, whether you're married, whether you're in grad school, like the same principle applies. Like you have to study, you have to find your niche in how you do it. So remember that.
I agree. André and Amasyah love naps. They have to take a nap before doing anything. Meanwhile, the other,
Period.
us, we just like, I gotta get it done. After class, and as I review, I would go on, like, just Google is your best friend. Just Google a topic, see if I can find practice questions that pertains to the topic. In CEDS, a lot of the tutors will suggest different resources, especially for anatomy and pharmacology, how our tutors will literally go through practice questions with us, see our thought process on it. Why did we answer this question? And they'll even provide videos as well as, like, I know our tutor Kristen did for anatomy. Say, oh, this is my favorite video. But then, so when it came to micro, there just so happened to be a whole anime for all my anime lovers that dealt with immunology and all the viruses, and it explained it on just like explain it like I'm 5 level.
Right, so now we will be discussing how we approached group studying. I will start. We each were in charge of a specific class, and for me, I chose anatomy. And so what I would do is after I would rewatch lecture, annotate my slides, read the chapter. From there, I would make a Word document based on the lecture objectives. My study guides would be basically, if we were learning about the thyroid, I have my lecture ready, my chapters ready to go. In my Word document, I would have the objectives as a table of contents on the first page. And from there, each page will be based on the lecture objectives that we would have in the PowerPoint lecture. I would color code it based on the vocabulary, terms discussed in class, important items in class, and I would just have a condensed version of the PowerPoint slides. Sometimes we get 60 to over 100 PowerPoint slides each lecture, and that's a little overwhelming to read every single day. And so our approach to group studying with our study guides would be to how can we condense all that information to make it easier to read and retain at a faster pace, because we were receiving that information at lightning speed. So we would just condense down the information into a couple of pages. My guide would be anywhere from 4 to 8 pages, and it would just hit all the highlights that we learned in class. And so, like before studying for, before an exam, or if you want to study right before you go to bed, you can just scroll through the study guide, and you'll be able to retain whatever it is at a quicker pace than reading, 100 pages, or reading through 60 PowerPoint slides, or rewatching a 2-hour lecture. You will have all that information condensed nicely, abbreviated with pictures, all in one Word document or PDF document.
And to point out, I think this also how, like, it's a great piggyback system. Like I prefaced earlier, like, I'm not a huge fan of re-listening to all the lectures. So if Amasyah re-listened to it and did it thoroughly, I can read her notes and not re-listen. And so now I'm saving time. She might have spent more time there, but now I'm able to understand it at the same rate, but just a different way. So piggyback off of your friends and classmates.
Piggyback off what Andre said, what we do is we break up the classes to help each other and to save time because it takes so long. So with pathology, our professor, he never had any slides less than 50. Like, they were always 50 plus, sometimes 140 slides. So when it came to my class for pathology, I would listen to the lecture for everybody, annotate my notes, as I said before, like directly on the PowerPoint slides. And then I would consolidate it down into a study guide, as you can see here.
I would say when it comes to tests and quizzes, that because we did everything separate, that when it's time for studying for it, we were teaching each other.
Exactly.
And because we were teaching each other, not only did it solidify the information for yourself, but you also helped your classmates, like the smart kiddos, learn the information. Like, for instance, I was over micro, and so because I listened to the lectures, because I took my notes and watched the videos, I was able to give examples and explain it better.
As London said, like, we all do things differently. Like, literally, we all do things differently. So if you look at my study guides, you'll see that I do things a little bit differently. If you learn differently than others, that's totally fine. Just make sure that you understand it to convey it. And if you're able to teach it, you're able to understand it and you're able to do well on the test.
And to piggyback off of Andre, one thing that I really admired about the Smart Kiddos group was, even though we approach studying and retaining differently, if micro was my weakest point, or pathology was my weakest point, or pharmacology is my weakest point, the Smart Kiddos may have heard something differently than how I heard it. And so I'm able to see, the material from a peer's perspective, from a teacher's perspective. So they may be able to break it down easier for me to understand. And I just liked how I could just, have it given to me in kindergarten terms, versus, the information thrown out in lecture I didn't understand. So the guides helped me study. Aside from anatomy, I was able to just quickly look at Andre's, Jordan's, or London's guide and like, okay, this is what they were trying to say. Okay, this is how they heard it. I didn't really interpret it that way, but now I know this is what the teacher meant, versus, for my confusion with the material. So I really liked how, even though we had different approaches, that different approach can make a world of difference to comprehending complex material moving forward. So.
And just piggybacking off of what Amasyah said about just getting a peer perspective, that was a really big thing for us. I feel like Zoom was one of our best friends this semester. We're also obviously always in class and attentive, but getting a peer perspective and just getting on Zoom was always kind of just like how Amasyah said, was just get their understanding or get a different explanation. It's just how we face a couple of our challenges this semester. And there were a few of them. We all had our individuals as well. Like I know, for instance, I mentioned I was more of just a reader study, where I would just watch the lecture, which worked. But with coming to MHS, the amount to study was a lot more than I had before, but I still had the same study skills. So trying to make those work out, I know something that worked for me was just changing scenery. So I know I moved a lot. I know like Amasyah would always be in her spot in the library, or Andre had his spot that I could, and even London, I would always see them in the same spot next year, but I would always be in a different place. And that's just something that helped me. So I know being in the same place probably helped them, but moving a lot was something that kept me focused.
Quiz, every time there was a test, every time we were running our mouth, we were on Zoom. And so we had we set up a Zoom before the semester started. It was a reoccurring Zoom. We had the same Zoom that we would click on before quizzes, before tests. We literally met the night before. Some mornings, if test was at 8, we were on Zoom at 6:30, 7. And so it's really reinforcing that. Like sometimes we would be on Zoom 20 minutes, 5 minutes. Sometimes we would be on there 5 hours. Like when I say it varies, it literally varies. So it's finding that core study group to, like, we've all discussed like our different study habits, but we all came together on Zoom. Like that's how we did it. And then even more so than that, we utilize CEDS. And so as a group, we utilize CEDS. So specifically, we had a specific tutor we always went to. She explained for this class, she explained the best, or he explained the best for this class. And so utilizing specific tutors within classes was really key for us. Also, like I said earlier, finding your niche in how you approach it. Throw a donut at me, it might work, but you throw a broccoli, it may not. So like, you just never know what works for you. So it's all available. So like, yes, we were MHS students, but study habits and group study, how we approached it can be for a dental student, for a medical student, for a PhD student. Like, I feel like we were very holistic in how we study and pursuing our studying, and how that's going to help us studying in our future endeavors. So I think that's how we approach studying, and I hope it definitely helped y'all on today.
Thing to add, I would say that when you find your study group, be transparent with your study group. We all were very vulnerable with each other. We all were very vulnerable when it came to, I didn't understand this material, or, can we book a CEDS session? There was never a point in time where I felt embarrassed to speak up that I didn't know something. And I could say the same thing for the Smart Kiddos. So I would say, find a study group where you can be yourself, where you can be comfortable, where you can grow, and knowing that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have a support system behind you who's not going to say, oh, just because you're booking a CEDS session or tutoring, doesn't mean, that you're not smart enough, you're not capable. My study group, we were all on the same page. I never felt embarrassed. I never felt shy. They really pushed me to, get out of my comfort zone. So I would say that with CEDS being so flexible, you could schedule it on the day of, you can schedule it 2 weeks in advance, and it was around all of our schedules. So there was a lot of flexibility, a lot of variability, and it was just the transparency that I valued the most. I didn't have to put on a face like I knew everything right there and then. I didn't have to be someone I wasn't with my study group. And so just having somebody in your circle who wants to see you win academically, who supports your dreams and goals, we can go out to eat together, but then when we knew it was time to get on Zoom, when we knew it was time to study, when we knew it was time to make flashcards, we buckled down. And so just find, because it's going to be uncomfortable a little bit when you move to a new place. And so, find the people you click with best, find people who's a little higher than you, so you can be motivated to move in their direction, so they can support you. So I would just end with that piece, to just utilize CEDS to the best of your abilities, find the study group where you can be transparent and honest about your academic goals, and set realistic achievements, to bypass, your anxiety, your stress with all this complex material that we can get from a day-to-day basis.
Just going based off like what everybody was saying, that holding each other accountable was also a great thing. Like waking up every morning and saying, what are your goals? Like, how are you going to achieve them? Or even like when we book the CEDS session, we'll put it right in our Smart Kiddos calendar. We have like a little folder.
We organize
everybody else. And they say, okay, this is the CEDS session this time. And then, some of us don't check the calendar. So we'll call people. Be like, where you at? We have a CEDS sessions today at this time with this subject, making sure that everybody was on, did not miss a beat, just making sure that we're all on one accord. And then from the materials that we learned, we had a separate folder in Google Drive where we've had like all of our guides there, any practice questions that we found, any core resources, what we learned during CEDS, we just put it in there, and it made it like helpful and more organized too. Like even with the books, like, oh, where'd you find that at? Oh, I found it in a book. It's okay, let me look in there to see where it is.
Thank you all for listening to us express how we utilize CEDS and our approach to individual studying and group studying. If you have any questions, we will leave our contact information below. If one of our techniques or study skills appeal to you the most, we are here to help you any step of the way, because we're all on the journey to find ourselves. We're on the journey to be physicians, be researchers, be dentists. How you say it? I think it's because it's like plural, right?
Dentist.
Dentist.
I think it's dentist.
Dentist. We are all on the journey to make an impact medically. I'll just say that.
Period.
Welcome to Meharry Medical College.